the shrinking signs of a fragile food system. A subtle shift is unfolding in grocery stores across the country, one that slips under the radar for most shoppers. Product packaging, especially for everyday foods, is shrinking. From Folgers coffee to Chobani yogurt to Fritos, items are appearing in slightly smaller sizes than before. The change is often so minor, sometimes less than a 10% reduction, that it barely registers. Take Gatorade. Its plastic bottles have quietly dropped from 32 ounces to 28 ounces, yet the price remains unchanged. For the average consumer, this tweak might not spark curiosity. But for manufacturers, it's a big deal. Resizing a plastic bottle, even by a small margin, requires new molds to be designed and machined, a costly process. Every production line in every factory nationwide must be retrofitted and recalibrated. Injection molding machines, which are finicky by nature, need weeks or even months of tweaking to churn out consistent products again. This isn't trivial, it's an expensive headache. So why go through the trouble? For producers, downsizing is a desperate move, a last-ditch effort to cope with pressures they can't otherwise escape. When an entire industry starts shrinking packages, it's not just about staying competitive, it's a signal of deeper trouble. A Consumer World writer recently noted that price hikes and smaller portions tend to come in waves, adding, "We happen to be in a tidal wave at the moment." Most shoppers shrug this off. After all, a slightly smaller yogurt cup doesn't feel like a crisis. But here's the catch: nothing matters more than the food supply. We've grown used to stocked shelves, taking abundance for granted. Yet cracks have started to show. Baby formula shortages made headlines for weeks, and other items have vanished from stores for months at a time. What if this hints at something bigger? What if food shortages hit harder and supermarkets began closing? Rewind a few decades, and the food industry looked different. Supermarkets kept their own warehouses stocked with extra inventory, enough to weather disruptions like a snowstorm. Payment terms stretched to 30 days, giving breathing room. Markups were healthy, often 10% to 20%, allowing stores to offset low-profit essentials like milk with pricier items like premium ice cream. But those buffers have eroded. Today, the industry scrapes by on razor-thin margins, sometimes as low as 2%. Suppliers demand payment in 3 days, not 30. Local warehouses? Mostly gone. Stores now depend on frequent deliveries from wholesalers, leaving little backup if something goes wrong. The system, producers, wholesalers, retailers, has no slack left. It's like a weary fighter, arms down, bracing for the final blow. That blow could come from inflation, fueled by unprecedented government spending. In the past decade, more money has been printed than in the prior 230 years combined. Significant inflation is no longer a question of if but when. A single month of high inflation wipes out profits, the next shipment's price adjusts, but the loss lingers. If inflation spikes for 3 months straight, heavily indebted supermarkets could start shutting down. The weakest fall first, then others follow if the trend persists. We could adapt to shortages of shoes or appliances, patch up old boots, repair the dishwasher. Food's different. It's non-negotiable. A decade ago, I warned of coming food shortages, even riots and famine in the First World. Back then, it sounded far-fetched. Now, the early signs are here. They're not dire yet, but they're real. A 10% shortage of shoes is an inconvenience. A 10% shortage of food means empty stores and hungry neighborhoods. If producers and retailers collapse in large numbers, famine could strike unevenly, hitting some areas harder than others. It's a jarring thought in a world where a quick fast food run once solved any hunger pang. A smaller Gatorade bottle isn't a starvation sentence. It's just a clue, a whisper of strain in an industry stretched to its limit. Ignore it, and we might miss the bigger story, a food system teetering on the edge. Conclusion: the quiet downsizing of everyday products reveals a food industry under siege, stripped of resilience and vulnerable to collapse. What seems like a minor annoyance today could foreshadow a crisis tomorrow, one where empty shelves replace full carts. Paying attention now might be the difference between preparedness and panic.